Well, I'm back. I want to thank everybody that has taken a couple of minutes on somewhere on the social media or on a video to check in and ask how I'm doing. I'm sorry for kind of just taking an unintended break. I guess the last time I saw you was in September, and September's also right when flag football started. Both of the girls decided to play flag football this year, and um, before we had 2 practices a week, like the year before, and then we had a game on Saturdays. But this year, they put the games during the week, and so that reduced us to 1 practice, but still 2 activities during the week. And so, not to make excuses, but during that time, we would have just maybe sometimes 40 minutes between the time we got home and we'd have to turn around and either go to a practice or a game. So on those days, I was cooking dinner during the day so that as soon as we got home, we could eat and then we could go to practice. Because a lot of times we'd get home that night and it'd be time for the girls to have quiet time and go to bed. So that kind of began the cycle of not getting my work done, not sharing with you, not making content, not really participating. And so then it's go, 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 because besides the flag football, the girls are at 2 different schools this year, and both of them are very active. And both of them are in student council. Both of them are in some form of music at school, so there's before and after practices. So it was kind of, just getting adjusted to all the things. And as I tumbled into October, and I'm really starting to realize that like I haven't made any content, and I keep telling myself I'm going to because I can tell you like what to plant in October, but I didn't, and I can't think of anything significant going on in October other than October is kind of when I realized that I was in a rut. I was in enough of a rut to say to my husband, like, I'm in a rut. And it wasn't like a depression thing. It was really like a rut. Like I just was doing the same thing every day, doing all the things that are required of me in my service to my family. I will say too that in that kind of realizing, there in November that I needed to get myself out of that rut, I really started analyzing and becoming more aware of a lot of behaviors and practices that I had. And for me, that specifically, one big one was reading the news too much, because I had gotten into this pattern of reading the news from like 3 or 4 different sources, which could mean cajillions of articles from a cajillion other sources. I was probably reading those 3 or 4 times a day, if not more. Just like if I sat down, that's what I needed to do, is like run through and see if there's any articles I missed. And so I don't have to tell you what kind of strain and stress that creates for a person. So that definitely probably contributed to the rut. So it took me about a week, but I got myself completely off reading the news. And the big thing I'm working on now is getting myself off of those little videos. So I will say too that in that kind of realizing, there in November that I needed to get myself out of that rut, I really started analyzing and becoming more aware of a lot of behaviors and practices that I had. And for me, that specifically, one big one was reading the news too much, because I had gotten into this pattern of reading the news from like 3 or 4 different sources, which could mean cajillions of articles from a cajillion other sources. I was probably reading those 3 or 4 times a day, if not more. Just like if I sat down, that's what I needed to do, is like run through and see if there's any articles I missed. And so I don't have to tell you what kind of strain and stress that creates for a person. So that definitely probably contributed to the rut. So it took me about a week, but I got myself completely off reading the news. And the big thing I'm working on now is getting myself off of those little videos. So I was just kind of got into a cycle, if you will. I don't know, a pattern. And it just felt like I was doing that, and I didn't really know how to get off the train. I didn't feel a lot of creativity fueling me. My garden was, I don't know, kind of coming out of the heat of the summer. I'm sure, like a lot of you, I was just kind of like, to the garden. And so I certainly didn't get a big jump on the fall at all. Like anything that I planted this fall, I bought as starts at Summer Winds. And so I only have a couple of small victories going on because of that. So yeah, through October, I just kind of sat in the rut, and I didn't really know how to get out because, like I said, it wasn't until, like, when I talk about how I was just doing all the things that I do to serve my family, there was nothing bad about that. Like, it wasn't terrible. Of course, it was a lot, when we were doing flag football, which didn't end until the middle of November. So as we came into November, which is usually when I get into like my seasonal kind of downturn of my emotions, I guess I personally was just kind of like, hey, you were in a rut all through October, and so you've kind of got to, you can't do that. You've got to skip your seasonal thing and just get out of this rut, and I guess when I really reflect on the October rut that I was in, if you don't know what a rut is, it's like, I grew up in the country. So in the country, after it's rained and rained, or if you have a driveway like mine that needs more rock in it, when it's rained and rained, the road will get a rut in it from vehicles going down it and stuff. And so, if you get stuck in a rut, sometimes it's hard to get out. So when I really look at and reflect on the October rut, if you will, I can kind of see that in the bigger picture, I'd been in a silent rut probably since we, found out that we were losing our house, the rental house that we were in. And there's so many things I love about this place, but there are so many things that I loved about that place. And a lot of it was really probably genuinely aesthetics. That's probably the thing that I love the most, were aesthetic things about living in our other house. We came into this house as renters. So, and even though we had it in our mind that we definitely liked the thought of buying this property, we just really didn't know how it was going to go, and we really thought maybe we could rent a year or two and figure it out. So we were barely even all the way through that year when our friend was like, hey, are you going to go ahead and buy this? Because if not, then I'm going to move on with some investment ideas on that property. And so it's crazy because even though 2020 was like the age of the illness or whatever, and it was very hard for a lot of people, 2020 was like one of our best years. And it was tumbling into 21 that all those things changed. Am I saying that right? I think I'm saying that right. All those things changed, with where we were living. And then it's like, even after we closed on the house, which was, will be a year in April this year, even when we closed on the house, it's like we had to put so much money, into the closing costs and all those things, that things were tight for a while. So it's not like, well, it really is. It's like buying a house, whether you already were living in it or not. You put so much money into actually getting the place, and it's not like you have immediately money to go in and like start making it what you want to make it. And quite frankly, pretty much everything in this place was exactly the way it was when we moved in here. We adjusted some with like end tables because we had a lot of living room furniture. But other than that, most of the house was the way it was when we moved in here after it got, a quick 20-day remodel to make it livable for us. So for all intents and purposes, what I mean by it being the same way is it really was just set up to accommodate, 6 or 7 people moving into it as fast as possible and creating storage wherever possible to accommodate all the things that we had. And so for me, in a lot of ways, I may have said this before, but for me, in a lot of ways, like the first year that we were renting, to me felt like we were camping. And then when we owned it, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, now what are we going to do, and still trying really hard not to be thinking about all the things that I aesthetically missed about the place that we lived in before, even though I'm grateful to not have a house payment on a house like that. So in November is kind of when I started, a part of kind of getting out of the rut for me was starting to really think of this place. Like, I've never been in love with this house. I've been in love with the land the whole time. And so whatever, this is where we live right now. And for me, part of getting out of that rut and getting recharged creativity, in my creativity and recharged in my just overall energy was working towards making this place actually ours, making it something. So even though this wonky little piece together Lego house is definitely probably not by any definition a cottage, for me, like that's helped me as like thinking about it as like this little cottage that I can make really fun regardless of how small it is. So in November, like I said, we got through with flag football, and for Thanksgiving we went to North Texas and spent time with our family. In December, I really thought for sure that I was going to shoot a video because, much like October and November, at the very least, I could have told you what you could plant in December, and I could have showed you the couple of little bitty cool things that I actually have going on in my yard. But I definitely have been, or could change my title to The Lazy Gardener because that definitely is the title that I've could most identify with in the last 3 or 4 months. So we got into December and it's like, boom. Usually by October, I have the bulk of our Christmas shopping done. But because we were traveling and I was pushing money towards that, come the first day of December, I needed to execute all the purchases. So I let that kind of string me along, as well as a reason that I was too busy to execute creating content. But I really got more and more into, like I said, plugging in places in my mind and thinking about my home as a place that I really wanted to make into a place that I enjoy. So I really started doing research on small spaces, because I think that's the tough thing about going from a really large space, large rooms, large areas to really small rooms, really small spaces. It's just not really knowing how to conceptualize, what to do in those areas. And So I'm kind of working. So I've done some research and I kind of have a direction that I want to go with the general living area, which encompasses the dining room. But the first place that I really have gotten to work on is our bedroom, the master bedroom. Now, I mentioned earlier that I'm getting myself weaned off of those little videos, but in one of those little videos, like the reels, the shorts, the short videos, in one of them, I heard a guy talk about how your bedroom, having a clean bedroom. Now, I'm always really strict about making the bed, and generally keeping up the spaces of the bedroom. But like I said, with the way everything got crammed in here, my room was just really becoming almost like a hoarder's delight. And I'm not saying that to make fun of anybody, but it's just like a little pile here was turning into a little pile here that would get moved up on the shelf, and then another pile, and then it's like this is a pile that needs to be filed, and the filing cabinet's right there, but the shelf is closest, so it just goes there. And so and then my husband had his own piles, and we had the dog crate in the room, which was another place to create piles. And this is the time of the year that we wear jackets and coats, so just piles and piles everywhere. And so in December, I really started putting my head around how I was going to declutter my room, declutter this space, bring it down, get it real organized, find a way to make it feel like it was bigger than it was, give it more space. And so even though we kind of all went through all the sicknesses in December, I still had my mind going on that, so that when we came into the 1st of January, like boom, we were making things happen in the bedroom. As far as, I did a lot of the decluttering kind of right there at the end of December, or maybe it was all in the first week of January. But that's been real helpful for me, is opening up that space, because my bedroom, besides outside, out back, is a place that I spend a lot of time in, just freeing myself of the clutter and all the little things and just all the millions of micro distractions that were there, has been amazing. So the next step is going to be, and I'll share some of this with you. I really wish that I would have taken pictures and before and after to kind of show you, but I'll try to recreate it and as best as I can as we go along. So the next things in here are gonna be texturing the walls, painting the walls, and the same thing for the bathroom. I do have some footage of the very before of the bathroom. It needs some wall repair. It needs to be textured. It needs to be painted. Some things need to be shifted around in there. So the bathroom's just going to get a facelift, because ultimately it needs a gut, in my opinion, to suit what I want and for it to be how I think it should be. And the bedroom is getting to redecorate. And then, like I said, we're going to move out that way. I think I may end up going with kitchen cabinets, because for a while I didn't know if I wanted to do that, but I'm just not enjoying the open space, and I want to take advantage of the full area of our dining room in there. So that is kind of a little recap of where I've been and what I've been going on. I guess I'm a little embarrassed that it wasn't something tragic and bad. I'm definitely grateful, because other than just being hectic, for the most part, besides going through not feeling so great with, the flu or the blah, blah, blah in December between, one or four of us, things have been going well. I just had to get back to a place of creativity, and I'm really behind on my garden because I just got my fire rekindled within myself. So, and January's a big month, and so I'm not gonna get into anything to do with that. I've got lists and lists of videos to make for you instead of just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I'm ready to go into sharing content and creating content and learning and growing with you. I want to do it, in a surefire way. I don't want to just be flying by the seat of my pants. So I'm getting reorganized in my other business, and I'm getting fired back up, really. So I'm not going to make hardcore promises about when and where you're going to see me, but definitely know that I have a plan to be seeing you more. And again, I'm really, really grateful that, a handful or more of you have said, hey, where are you at? I fortunately did not get burned out. A couple of people were curious about that. I just got into a rut, and I'm grateful to say I didn't stay there. And if you want to talk more about that, but I think I pretty much explained it. Like, I don't think you need a guru to get out of a rut. Sometimes you got to get out. So I hope that you have the best day ever, and I hope that you can forgive me for just taking off for 4 months or so and lollygagging around until I was ready to come back over here and hang out with you, because I missed you, and I'm excited to see what the rest of this year holds for us. And I hope you're doing well. And if you've got any more in-depth questions about my absence, or if you just want to kind of make slap me on the arm comments in the comments, I'm open to that too. But more than anything, I just hope you have the best day ever, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon. Bye bye.